very diverse depending upon where you are. For example, it could have lush grasses and large trees, or be dry and desert-like. But over the course of time, those beautiful landscapes have started to become contaminated with the things that we use every day. Not only is it the vegetation that is being greatly affected by this, but the wildlife is greatly affected as well. With these complications in the environment comes complications with our own health. The health of the environment and the health of society are greatly linked to one another. For example, during the Industrial Revolution, the factories produced and released great amounts of toxins into the air, which greatly affected the health of the environment and the people living there. You may want to blame the government for not protecting the environment and the ozone, but there are actually many laws that are in place to protect it. One of the many causes to environmental harm is pesticides. Research shows that Americans use up to approximately 2.2 billion pounds of pesticides every year. They also found that many of the insects that we use the pesticides on will develop a resistance to the pesticides over time. The use of these pesticides has caused the contamination of groundwater, also known as drinking water. Up to 73 types of pesticides have been found in the groundwater. Within these pesticides, more than 100 active ingredients are suspected of causing cancer, birth defects, and gene mutations. This is a main reason why we need to protect the environment for its health as well as ours. Nitrogen is also a hazard to the groundwater as well as rivers. Nitrogen is essential to crops, but too much can cause nutrient pollution in rivers and oceans, and human health. Nuclear weapons are also a major risk to the environment and can have major impact. The cost of one of these harmful nuclear weapons and the testing could finance the installation of 80,000 hand pumps in third world countries. Every year, US factories release 3 million tons of toxic chemicals into the air, on land, and into water. This accumulates to over 1/2 billion tons of solid hazardous waste that gets dumped across the nation and the world. Lois Gibbs, an environmental activist, states that everyone has some amount of dioxin in his or her body, and the average level is already enough to endanger our health. One of the most horrific environmental devastations was the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico on April 20, 2010. This oil spill displaced many oceanic and land animals in the area of 2,500 to 68,000 square miles. The spill released 210 million gallons of oil into the Gulf of Mexico, and it took crews up to 3 years to clean up all the oil and restore the environment to its initial equilibrium.
600 square miles of water. Let's get more from CNN weather anchor Chad Meyer. Chad?
Larry, it really is a mess today because the winds shifted direction. They're now out of the southeast, blowing this oil, this sludge, into the bayous of southeastern Louisiana, well south of New Orleans, but into that little point that is the delta of New Orleans. Here's the map. Here's the brown area where the oil is. The source there obviously still coming out. Yesterday we found out about this time that there were not only 1,000 barrels coming out per day. That's about 42,000 gallons. But there were maybe 5,000 barrels coming out. That's almost 200,000 gallons of oil coming out per day. So here it is right on the shore of Louisiana today. Farther back up toward Biloxi by Saturday, into Mobile Bay by Sunday, and then maybe as far east as Pensacola. The good news right now, the oil that is coming on shore is almost tar-ballish. It's been in the water a very long time, so they're coming out as kind of like balls of tar, as you would. Then the next layer of stuff that comes on shore is going to be more like mayonnaise, because it's not going to be in the water as long, not going to evaporate as long. And then the devastating thing is the water and the oil that comes on shore as liquid, like the Exxon Valdez. The animals get in this. It's a plankton all the way to the river otter problem. We may not know about how many animals died from this. This is basically the fishery of the Gulf of Mexico right here, and we will be killing plankton and what eats the plankton and what eats the shrimp and all the way up the food chain. Yeah, this is going to be one that we don't want to think about. This is going to be a very, very
Great.
difficult couple of days for those people down there.
Great job, Chad. Is this a weather story? Quickly, is it a weather story?
It was a weather story today because the wind was responsible of it coming back up and blowing that oil into the bayou. For the last couple of days, it was blowing it away and it was doing okay. Today, that weather changed.
Thanks. Chad Myers is always right on top of things.
Here are a few ways that you can help the environment in your community. When you plant a tree, you are making a great contribution to the betterment of the environment because trees absorb carbon dioxide, which is a greenhouse gas that is slowly tearing a hole in the ozone layer of our atmosphere. Don't drive your car unless necessary. When you walk or ride a bike to where you want to go, rather than take your car, it reduces the amount of smog or vehicle pollutants that are released every day. You should also get your car tuned regularly because when your car is properly maintained, it will get better gas mileage and emit fewer pollutants into the atmosphere. As well as getting your car tuned, when you go to the gas station and fill your gas tank, overfilling of the tank causes spills that release hydrocarbons and other toxic chemicals into the air. When you have large piles of yard waste, don't burn it. When you burn the waste, it releases mold spores, soot, and other contaminants that can affect the environment and our health. Don't use as much fertilizer on your lawn because when it rains, all of that fertilizer becomes runoff and pollutes our streams. Never pour any type of leftover chemicals into a storm drain because it will end up in the nearest stream. Responsibly get rid of any type of waste that you have because when you don't, it ends up in streams and the ocean. If you are going to water your grass or plants, make sure that you do it early in the morning so that the water has a chance to be absorbed and so that it doesn't evaporate and scorch them. Start recycling so that your non-biodegradable plastics don't end up in the ocean or in a landfill. Make sure that you print on both sides of your printer paper so that you can cut down on the amount of paper needed and save more trees per year. And finally, don't throw everything in the trash. Most things that people consider trash, examples are small clothing or gently used household items, are accepted by most charitable organizations as a donation.